You guys want to learn how to improvise a really cool trap today? Stick with me. Hello and welcome to the Black Hat Bushcraft channel. Today I want to share with you how to set up a really cool platform spring snare that utilizes a net component to live catch an animal. In my mind, it makes sense to use this trap to target birds. In my area, birds are very plentiful and are easy to catch. So if I really needed a food source, that would be a go-to. You could also use this trap to catch small mammals like chipmunks and maybe squirrels, but just understand that when you're utilizing a net that's made out of bank line, eventually a chipmunk or a squirrel can chew their way or work their way out of that trap and ultimately mess up your net. If you were close by and you heard the trap go off and you heard the animal struggling, you could run in and dispatch that animal. But other than that, again, birds are really the best suited prey for this particular trap. Today we're going to utilize that net that I showed you how to make in the previous video. So if you haven't seen that or you don't know how to make a net, I strongly recommend that you go back and check out that video if this is something you want to add to your toolbox. Of course, if you just want to check this out because it's cool, by all means stick with me. So I'm going to post a link to the video up at the top for the net. I'm also going to post another link for another video just after this, which is for a platform spring snare, which I've done in the past. I'm going to go through the steps of setting this up today, but I'm not going to go in super detail. If you want super detail, I have another video right here that you can go and check out and see how I construct this platform in a detailed manner. So without any further discussion, let's get started on how to set up this really cool step, trigger, spring pole, net, trapping machine. So I've gone ahead and collected up all the resources that I'll need to set up this trap. And first of all, we need two uprights. These are about 14 inches in length, although you could go 16, 18 easy. Depends on how soft the ground is that you're going to hammer these into. These will actually have to support the pressure of your spring pole, so a little longer is probably better. You can see that this is an upright with a branch growing off. It is not a Y branch. Y branches are hard to hammer in the ground without splitting, but rather this is a straight with a branch coming off, and these hold our trigger portion of our trap. All right, I have two crossbars here. The size of these needs to match your net. So you can see the length of my net. This will allow me to set up a step trigger that's perfectly sized for the net that I've made. So these are just small diameter, probably 1/2 inch in diameter, and that's about perfect. You need a stretch of cord. This one is about 7 feet. It's 550 cord. You could easily use 36 bank line or whatever cordage you have. I just have about a 2-inch little toggle, and I just cut a small V-notch on that. Nothing special about that at all. And then I just have a handful of about 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch straight twigs, and these will actually all sit side by side to create the step platform that I'll place my net on. So again, you want those to be sized appropriately so that you can lay your net in place on your step trigger. And with that, we have everything we need. Now we just need to select our spring pole and get our trap set up. All right, so I've gone ahead and selected my sapling here. This is just a little sweet gum sapling. I have my 550 cord. It has a bow line knot already tied in it. So I'm just going to make that a running bow line and go right back through it. Just like that. And now I have my spring pole prepared, and I can see also straight down to the ground where I want this trap to be. So right here, just kind of clear out a spot so I can see where I need to set this up. And now I know where to get started. All right, so the next step is to pull my spring pole down to my trap and figure out where on the cordage I need to set my toggle. And when I do that, I can pretty much see very easily I have more than double the cordage that I need. Rather than cutting my valuable cordage, I'm just simply going to wrap the excess around my tree here. When I do that, instead of just wrapping around and around, that sometimes will want to come undone, I'll simply just wrap excess over top of itself. So I go one time to the right, kind of like you're tying a clove hitch. Well, technically you will be. And then I'm going to go back the other way. So I'm just wrapping that X fashion to take up all the excess cordage there. All right, so once I have taken up enough cordage, that last time around, I'm just gonna run it back through itself, kind of like an overhand knot, and that will hold everything nice and secure and neat in place. I won't have excess cordage flopping around when the trap goes off. It just makes for a neat way to do this attachment and yet conserve my cordage. At that point, I'm gonna simply attach my toggle with a Marline spike hitch. So what I like to do is bend my spring pole down and just straddle it like this. Now I don't have to worry about that spring pole, it's hands-free, and I can come in here and work with my cordage. So that's a really good way of doing that. And what I'm gonna do is come up here and attach my toggle. Just run it through that hitch. Cinch that down. I'm gonna cinch it really good. All right, so in the same fashion of securing my spring pole, I'm now gonna attach my net just below the toggle. I'm gonna use a lark's head knot to do this. You could use really any knot that you wanted to attach cord to cord, but lark's head is just a simple and easy knot to undo. And I'm just gonna put a simple stopper knot at the end so it can't pop out. And now I have my net securely attached to my line here. And so now it's basically just setting the trap. So now I'll come down to the ground, and what I need to do is take my 2 uprights and just drive those down in the ground here. That should be good. I have my other here, and to determine how far apart that needs to be, I'm going to use the crossbars for that. That looks about right. And I'm just going to drive that in the ground as well. Want to get them pretty close to even. And you can take that crossbar and bring it up. It's easy to see when it's level. That looks good. All right, let's move on to the next step. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at how to set this trap. First of all, I'm just pulling my spring pole down here by the cord. You want to be careful with this. I get a hold of that toggle and use that to manipulate the cord. And I'm simply going to tuck one part of my toggle up under the first crossbar. And now I'm going to pull that down so that it's vertical. Now my toggle is vertical. Now I can take my second stick here, my second crossbar, and just insert underneath. And that toggle wants to pull out this way, and it's binding against that second stick there on the bottom. Now this part is very important. You want to make sure that your line that goes to your snare, or your net in this case, is up and out of the way. Otherwise you're going to bind your net up when this thing goes off. So again, you want to make sure that stuff is up and out of the way. Now I'm going to be very careful and hang on to this toggle right here, and I'm going to start to insert my platform sticks. Put one on each end. And when you got your platform sticks, if there's one end that's smaller, and you want to put that end here, put the bigger end towards the ground. It just helps to create less of a wedge between these two. But this is it really. You just have to take your time and lay all these things in place, and just make sure that this toggle doesn't come out and pop you in the face. Because if this bottom crossbar goes down, that thing's going to go off. All the force of that tree is going to come up at once. So we're just going to keep inserting these sticks to create our pedestal. Just being careful not to put any downward pressure on that. It won't take much for that thing to go off. Once you finish with this, you can make this thing a hair trigger just by sliding that bottom crossbar a little bit further down. But to be honest with you, it's almost a hair trigger just as it is anyway. Have one extra this time. Now at this point, you want to make sure that your net is over top of this crossbar. You want to make sure that nothing's going to get hung up on this hook. So you can see I'm being very careful with my net to make sure it's not going to snag on anything. You can use a snare, as I showed in the last video, and it's the same process. You just want to make sure that there's nothing that's going to get in the way of a clean catch here. So you want to have your net or your snare arranged down at the bottom of this treadle here, so that when the animal starts to put his weight down on that, you're getting a clean catch right off the bat. You don't want to put it up higher and him have to climb this thing. Again, he might start to feel something a little funny with these twigs, so you want it to be an immediate catch as soon as pressure's put down. Again, we want to kind of camouflage this thing, make it seem as natural as we can. Little pieces of pine straw, stuff like that. And then, of course, we can put some natural debris up here. And we want to make this thing as much as we can unfriendly to approach from behind. I want to put sticks and a barricade and everything that I can to make the animal come from this direction. And then with that, we can get a clean catch. All right, so the trap is set. Let's see if we can catch a 100-foot spool of number 36 bank line. Haha, nice. Here we go. Bank line and a net. Good deal. And once again, yep, clean catch. There he is, wrestling around. We got dinner. Bank line stew. All right, so I hope you guys have enjoyed taking a look at how to create this platform spring snare utilizing that little net that we made in the last video. If you haven't seen that one, again, go back and check it out. I was taught net making at the Pathfinder School by Dave Canterbury, and Dave had shown me how to make a net multiple times, and it just would not sink into my hard head. Normally, when I try to pick up something bushcraft related or survival skills like that, I can figure those things out fairly quickly, but for some reason, net making has been one of the most difficult of those skills for me to learn. So back in the fall, we had a primitive trapping class at the Pathfinder School, and I taught along with Dave and also Anthony Powers of the Pooter Stomper channel. Definitely check him out if you haven't. And we taught a lot of different primitive traps, and there was a particular portion of the class where Dave taught net making, and for that portion I was not very helpful to the students, and that really bothered me. So I knew I had to go home and get to work and practice this skill. And so coming out and making this video today was just a chance for me to kind of solidify this knowledge and put that skill to practical use out here in the woods, as you can see. So again, thanks for coming along. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you're interested in learning more traps like this, by all means check out my playlist here on YouTube with primitive traps. There's a whole bunch of other traps there. And by all means check out the school calendar on the Self-Reliance Outfitters website. I'll leave a link down below, and come out and join us for a primitive trapping class. It's such a blast. All the students had a great time, learned a ton, and I hope you'll get a chance to come out and train with us in person. Thank you guys again for your time, interest, and support. I look forward to talking to you with another video again very soon. And until that one, take care, be safe, and as always, God bless. Once again, if you guys are interested in the gear that you've seen me use, all of those items will be linked down below in the description box. I have several affiliate pages that you can purchase this gear from. Of course, if you use my affiliate links, I do benefit from that. It is a small percentage that comes back to me, but it is at no additional cost to you. So if you use those links, I greatly appreciate it. Many of you have, and I thank you for that support.